Terrell Thomas, These Urban Times, and for today's edition of Sideline Stories, the trade deadline has hit us in the NBA, and it's been a few big moves in which we were kind of wondering and hoping would they take place. So it was only right that I reach out to NBA insider, NiteCastMedia's own Nick Hamilton. Nick, you do a phenomenal job covering sports and entertainment as a whole, but you do a wonderful job covering the NBA. So it's only right with this breaking news to take place that I contact you, find out what your thoughts on. Now, there have been several minor moves in the NBA. We've seen Karis LeVert be traded. There's some speculation that we may even see the unicorn Porzingis traded in a few. But the blockbuster deal in which a lot of people were looking for and wondering if it would take place would be Ben Simmons, the Philadelphia 76ers, and James Harden of the Brooklyn Nets. And that trade has taken place. We now know that the Philadelphia 76ers are sending Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, big man Andre Drummond, as well as a future draft picks to the Brooklyn Nets for James Harden and Paul Millsap. So, of course, the two big pieces centered around that trade are Ben Simmons and Harden. Ben Simmons has not been on the floor for the 76ers or NBA period since the Sixers lost to the Atlanta Hawks in the 2021 NBA playoffs. James Harden has been in uniform for the Brooklyn Nets this year, but he's been out about the past week or so with hamstring soreness and things of that nature. So before I actually get your information and your spill on the thought, I want to throw out there to our audience, when the Nets big three came about of Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and James Harden, there were plans and, this is a dynasty that'll take place and no team will be able to stop this big three. And we actually only saw those guys play 16 games together. So, man, what are your thoughts on this move that is taking place? And what are your thoughts on the state of both of these franchises, the Sixers and the Nets, moving forward?
If I can interject one quick moment, the Dallas Mavericks are trading Porzingis and a second-round pick to Washington for Spencer Dinwiddie.
There we go. Man, breaking news as we do.
So now I can answer that other question. I mean, listen, the Brooklyn Nets stopped themselves. Nobody else, if they were able to lock in at quote unquote that big three or whatever you want to call them, they would have definitely been a very a menacing pain, a thorn in your side if you're opposing teams. But yeah, them playing only 16 games together reminds me of what LeBron, AD, and Westbrook are going through right now, playing 19 games and they're 10-9 on the season when those three are in the lineup. So again, between injuries and between the dysfunction, that's what you saw with the Brooklyn Nets, similar to what we're watching with the Los Angeles Lakers right now. And now you have a major trade with James Harden wanting to get out of there. We always knew that James Harden and Daryl Morey would reconnect in some way, shape, or form once they left Houston. So it wasn't really super surprising. I guess the timing of it may have been surprising as far as James Harden forcing his way out of a situation once again. But I think it fits. It favors more the Brooklyn Nets, because you add a piece like Seth Curry. You get your Ben Simmons. So now Ben should be happy enough to try to get back into basketball shape, because defensively, we know how good he is defensively. But also too, gaining, those draft picks, getting a healthy Kevin Durant back into the fold. And then whenever Kyrie is able to play, then you got Kyrie Irving in addition to that. Which is going to be very, very serious down the stretch, as we have about 26 to 27 games remaining in the regular season. So this timing couldn't have come at a better time for the Brooklyn Nets. In that lineup with Doc Rivers and Joel Embiid remains to be seen. But I can tell you, it won't be anything short of disappointing if they don't reach at least the conference finals. Whoever they may face, whether it be the Milwaukee Bucks or whether it may be the Brooklyn Nets once again, or could be the Miami Heat. Who knows? The East is pretty much loaded. So we don't know. But I tell you what, I am circling on the calendar Sixers and Nets down the line, because that is going to be a game to watch. Who's going to show up? Yeah, March 10th. Who's going to show up and who's going to show out and who's going to sit down?
Yeah, I'm wondering will we get an opportunity to actually see Ben Simmons. That game will take place in Philadelphia and South Philadelphia on March 10th. So I'm wondering, will Ben Simmons be in the lineup? Will he actually participate in that game? I want to know from your perspective. You just you broke down wonderfully who you believe won the trade, but looking at the landscape currently of the Eastern Conference, looking at the coaching staff, looking at the two organizations as a whole, who do you think currently has a better chance of possibly winning an NBA Finals? Would it be the James Harden and Embiid Sixers, or would it be Simmons, Durant, and Irvin when Irvin plays in the Brooklyn Nets?
I'm going to go completely left field. I'm going to go with the Milwaukee Bucks, especially the trade they were able to acquire today to getting Serge Ibaka. Serge Ibaka coming off that bench for that team gives them a nice little boost. I know he's older in age, but giving them some quality minutes off the bench and with that second unit is going to be very dangerous. Goodness gracious, they went through the SoCal sweep and destroyed both LA teams. One team has an excuse because they don't have both their superstars. Another team has zero excuse because they have three superstars in their lineup and still couldn't get the job done. Failed miserably. Came up shorter than Emmanuel Lewis at a urinal. So there's no way that you can tell me that the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis, I mean, the way Bobby Portis, you look at Drew Holiday, who's fit nicely into that line. He really looks comfortable in that lineup. Something that I kind of questioned last season, just because we know how good he is, and we know how good what he's been able to bring to the table in his career. But let me tell you something. The Milwaukee Bucks look real scary right now in that Eastern Conference, man. Nobody wants to really talk about them. I know the news of the day happens to be the Nets and the Sixers and what's going on with the Miami Heat. But I'm gonna tell you something, man. The Milwaukee Bucks are creeping on a come up, and they're quiet. They're playing well. They're playing fluid, and that's the team that's going to be scary in the playoffs if everybody stays healthy and giving everybody even health kill. Uh, let me tell you something. That Milwaukee Bucks team, and if you, I clowned Giannis before because I said, okay, he's I called him, the luckiest champion of all time because he slid in at the right time. So I wasn't a big buyer of Giannis, but if he's able to get a championship this year and go back to back, I will rescind everything I ever said about Giannis. I never said Giannis was a scrub. I never said he was garbage. I said he was lucky because if Kevin Durant would have cut off his big toe and shot that shot, we'd be talking about the Brooklyn Nets right now, not the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis. So to me, and then they went through the Atlanta Hawks like grease through a goose.
And Trae Young was injured in that series. That was
and Trae Young was injured, so I made it a completely different factor. And he tried to come back, but it was like, man, this guy's hurt, man. It's no way. It's no way this guy's going to be able to perform at the level that we've seen Trae Young, Mr. Ice in his veins, has performed in times past. And I know you see it up close and personal every game. But we got to see it on a national scale, admire it on a national scale. Him willing his team, the Atlanta Hawks, that nobody gave a chance in hell to outside of the 404 and countless area codes that surround that city. We didn't give them a chance in hell, and they proved all of us wrong, and rightfully so. But again, that's why I call Giannis lucky. But if he's able to do it and go through this gauntlet that he's going to have to go through this year and able to get back to the NBA Finals and win the NBA Finals, because let me tell you something, the Western Conference is going to be just as tough. You look at the Golden State Warriors who starting to figure it out. You look at the Phoenix Suns who have figured it out. Those to me are my two teams to make it to the Western Conference Finals. I don't see any other teams. I think the Lakers are going to stink up the joint continually. The Clippers, I don't see them doing anything. I think the Denver Nuggets and the Utah Jazz could be formidable in different rounds of the playoffs. But to me, it comes down to the Suns and the Warriors. And the Warriors can definitely turn it up a notch. Having Klay Thompson come back, James Wiseman, get Draymond Green back healthy and back on the road where we've seen Draymond Green do, and the emphasis that he's been able to impose his will at various times on the court, along with the great Steph Curry. That's going to be a very, very dangerous team come in playoff time and in the conference finals and possibly in the NBA finals. So it's going to be a tall task for Giannis coming out of the East to go ahead and beat a top-notch Western Conference team, in the future. So, but if he can accomplish that, hey, I'll fall back.
Terrell Thomas, These Urban Times. Today we're speaking with NiteCastMedia's own Nick Hamilton as the NBA trade line has come to an end. this Thursday. So we wanted to gather his thoughts on some of the few big moves that have taken place during the trade deadline, especially James Harden and Ben Simmons. But as you see, he's a man of many talents. You see a lot going on in his background. He's currently in Los Angeles covering the Super Bowl. So again, we thank you so much for your time as you're, moving and shaking with everything that's going on down in Southern California. Before we let you go, I do have one more question for you, because you did break some news for us in the beginning of the interview as we were talking about the unicorn Kristaps Porzingis being traded to the Washington Wizards for Spencer Dinwiddie. The Mavericks weren't a team that you just mentioned as you were laying out the current picture and landscape of the Western Conference. But with Luka now having another guard that could possibly assist them, and with the Mavs losing a big man, what are your thoughts on the Washington Wizards picking up Porzingis returning to the East, and what does this do for the Dallas Mavericks?
I don't know exactly what it does for the Dallas Mavericks, to be honest with you, because I think maybe they're trying to play small ball a little bit. Luka is very ball dominant, as we've seen. I mean, he has an incredible skill set, really good sound court vision, and it just didn't mix. It just didn't mix well with him and Porzingis. For some reason, everybody thought it could. I mean, the idea of it was very fascinating, but how it translated on the court and even in personnel circles didn't really match well. So I think it's going to be a good fit for Porzingis to get out of that situation, finally come into his own, kind of have some breathing room. The expectations are way bit lower for the Washington Wizards than they are for the Dallas Mavericks. And Spencer Dinwiddie, he gets an opportunity to play alongside an incredible player like Luka, which can help them at various points on the court, especially in half-court situations. But like I said, it's going to be interesting to see what it does for the Dallas Mavericks moving forward. Can they get into the playoffs? And then what can they do in the playoffs? That's because they've been first round and done for the last couple of years. And they have not been able to reach that peak yet. So will they be able to peak at the right time and get into the second round at least to try to give this team some not, I won't say confidence, but give them a reason to play and give them a larger scale to achieve as they move forward as a franchise. If they continue to go out first round and done, now you got to kind of look at Luka Doncic. You got to kind of look at the personnel. You got to kind of look at, okay, what are they putting around Luka that's going to help him, right? What does Luka need to do more? And maybe he needs to go out there and start recruiting, free agents. Maybe that's what you need to do. I don't know. But if something's going to have to change, they get bounced in the first. If they make it to the first round and get bounced in the first round again, goodness gracious.
Nick, thank you so much for all of your wonderful insight, man. We appreciate everything you do in the world of sports, entertainment, technology. You do wonderful work, whether writing or things like this, virtual and speaking your mind and giving us some insight on your thoughts. Please let our audience know how they can stay in tune with all the great work you're doing in the NBA through our entertainment, and how they can catch up and check out some of this wonderful Super Bowl coverage in which you're providing.
Man, appreciate the opportunity and the time, my man. You always got me whenever you reach the car. I see the bat signal up, so I know that's what that means. I see the triangle. So when I see that shit shot up in the air, I know what it is. But you can reach me at NiteCastMedia.com. You can also hit me up on Instagram at Nick Hamilton LA, as well as on Twitter at Nick Hamilton 213. You can also catch me every Tuesday, SiriusXM Slam Radio 145, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon Eastern. The TMA with Nick Hamilton. We talk about sports. We sprinkle a little season salt in there a little bit, give you a little flavor. We just talk about a lot of things that go on, obviously in the world of sports, and just having fun with it, man. Myself, my producer extraordinaire, Big Brother Jake, better known as Jake Warner, joins me every week. We just have a good time, man. We kick, I tell people all the time, kick your feet up, have a drink, have a beer, have a cup of coffee, whatever it is, some green tea if you're into that. And enjoy it for the next 55 minutes, man. And that's just what we do, man. We out here having fun. It's LA. It's my city, West Coast. We're just going to keep rolling and moving and shaking as we move.
Man, we're going to keep enjoying all the wonderful insight and the great things you're doing. Be safe out there, and we'll be connecting with you very soon.
You too, man. Stay safe, man. Talk to you soon.